Howdy everybody, my name is Chance Medlin. I go by Chance the Librarian here on campus. I'm the Learning and Student Engagement Librarian, and I am part of the Academic Success Strategies lesson plan team for Hullabaloo U. And today I really just wanted to make a quick video to show you how to create a Padlet if you'd like. I'm going to start here on the Office for Student Success's website for instructor resources for Hullabaloo U. And that's the Academic Success Strategies lesson plan. Wanted to point out that we've got our slide deck there, we've got the website, but I am going to click here on this lesson plan. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so hopefully you can read it a little bit easier. And here I just want to show at the very beginning of our lesson, slide 3, we're asking students to participate in an activity, and this is where we're recommending Padlet. Honestly, you could use other things like Google Slides and have people throw photos or memes on that as well, but we really like the way you can facilitate this activity with Padlet, so we wanted to show folks how to create one. This is primarily for folks that are new to Padlet, but I'll just show you some of the pro tips, the settings that I would use for this particular activity. The first thing I'm going to do is just look here. It says to get things started, they can use the QR code to share an emoji, GIF, or meme that represents how their first major exam, project, or essay went. And so I'm going to just copy that as kind of my prompt so that I can just paste that into the Padlet later. And then now I'm going to go to Padlet.com. If you have never created an account, you'll want to do that first just by going to Padlet.com. There are free options. With a free option, you can actually create up to 3 Padlets. And so what I did is I created a Padlet account with you can use a Google account that already exists. I like doing that so that I don't have to remember another username and password. So I've done that already. And now this is kind of when you go to Padlet.com and you're signed in, this is what it looks like. I'm going to click here on just make a Padlet. Here it comes up with a variety of options. Just want to point that out that there are tons of different templates that are already out there that you can use, modify, and edit. But what I'm going to do for this really simple Padlet that we're going to create is I'm going to click here on blank board. There are examples, but I'm just going to click on this huge button and it's going to automatically create a Padlet for me. It gives me a title over here on the right. I'm going to change that to HU25 just to keep it short and sweet. And then over here on the right, it's kind of automatically letting you pick which format you want it in. Honestly, the wall might work well for you if you'd like. It would show off their answers really beautifully. I personally like to use columns. Almost every Padlet I do, I use columns. That's just because I honestly normally have more than one question that I'm asking them, and so I want to kind of be able to flip back and move over to the other questions. But for this example Padlet, y'all are just going to be doing one question. But I still recommend using columns just because I want to show you another pro tip that I like to do that I think would be super helpful for your class. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that question into this as the section. So I'm going to rename that section and I'm going to then paste that prompt in. And now we've got our prompt here. It says share an emoji, GIF, or meme that represents how your first major exam, project, or essay went. And so when the students come to the Padlet, they can just click here on this plus and they'll be able to add their answers in. A few things I also like to point out is I go to the settings because I don't really want to use this background. So I'm going to click here on the settings, which is this very last button. And the first thing, if you want to change the title, you're given an option there. You can add a description. There's even an icon. I normally try to put something in there that's kind of funny. For this particular prompt in question, I think this one's, hopefully their exam went better than that. But just as a joke for this example one, I'm going to do that. Then we can change our wallpaper. I might pick something like Aggie Maroon. But really you can make it whatever your heart's desire. There are other options here to play with. Sometimes I have like just a couple of questions, and so like I want it to be able to be seen well, so I might make it wide. If I have tons of questions, I'll probably keep it standard so I can see as many questions at once. Once again, you can change the format if you would like. You can have it sort by what shows up. Do you want the new ones to show up at the top or the bottom? Like, it depends on how you want to scroll, how you want people to interact. I usually leave comments on just because it adds opportunities for students to engage with one another. And reactions, you have a few options. I'm going to keep like, but sometimes it's nice to do voting. So if you want to do competitive, like who has the best answer maybe, you could do voting, like up voting or down voting. So really it's, you can have kind of voting as far as like how many stars does this award, you want to award it. So there's some nice engagement options there. You can also do author and timestamp. So if they want to log in, if you want to have your students log in, they can. But for class, I rarely use this, but it can come in handy for some situations. There's moderation. I leave it on auto just so that they will automatically, I don't want it to wait for me to approve posts. I want them to just automatically show up so that the students can immediately start engaging with one another. Down here at the very bottom is this URL. I normally give it something a little shorter and sweeter. I think the shorter, the better. Just because it's going to be easier for the students to type in on their phone, on their computer, and that way they'll be able to get into the Padlet easier. So the shorter that URL is, the better. I'm going to copy it here just so I have it, and I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to make sure any of the settings, you can make sure that you save those. And now what I would like to do is just show you a little bit how to share it to your students. So you can have that URL on your slide, but I'm going to give you a little pro tip. What I normally do on my Padlets is I click on this little sharing button here that's got the arrow, and I click here on the Get QR code. Other things that are helpful to know is you can have visitor permissions. I'm going to leave them as writer because I want them to be able to answer the question. I also leave link privacy as secret. That way, only people that can interact with this Padlet are those who I'm sharing the URL with. But I'm going to click on this Get QR code. And notice it has this little option here to say pin to the header. You could do that. I usually don't, just because the sizing, it usually is so hard to see, and the majority of the rooms that I'm teaching in, it's never really super scannable. So that's why I'm going to show you this pro tip is I will download the image. That's something I can add to my slides for the day. That would be nice. Like if it's embedded in Canvas, you can have the QR code for folks to add to it later if they want. But I download the image, and then that way it's available to use here in just a moment. And what I often do is I add a section specifically for joining the Padlet. So I will add an image. So I just click here on upload, and then I'll pick my QR code. And that way the QR code is right there. And then for my subject, I'm going to add that URL that I copied earlier and hit publish. That way, still up on the screen, I can go into the Padlet myself. I don't have to have the slide up that has the URL or the QR code. I can go into the Padlet. I can start looking at the students' answers and sharing those with the entire class. And other students who are still trying to get their phones out or still trying to get to the URL, they never miss a beat. It's always up on the screen. If someone comes in to class a few minutes late, it's still up on the screen. You can be like, hey, the QR code's up there, join. And so that's just, to me, a best practice for Padlet in general. I almost always have that QR code easily visible with the URL as well. And then you can immediately start engaging with your students and seeing what they're saying. Hopefully there's some fun and humorous results, but also probably some realities of what's starting to stress them out, so you can start having conversations on how to help them be successful. I really hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions about Padlet, I am more than willing to help however I can. Good luck with the lesson, good luck with your semester, and have a great day. Thanks, and gig 'em.